What's going on?
What's going on, King? How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Over here in Houston, Texas.
You say you in Houston, Texas?
Yeah, I'm in Houston. I went to go visit Houston today.
Oh, just to visit Houston, or you
No, I was
like
going to do a
Houston?
podcast. I was going to do a friend's podcast, so that's what brought me down here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Feeling great?
I just woke up from a good old nap, and so I'm real energized. I'm ready. Let's get it.
Okay. So I don't know if you've ever watched the show.
Yes.
You have? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So you already know what time it is. We answer questions and we just go in. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to plug our episode, though. I'm plugging our episode of the Dear Future Wifey Podast. We did episode 320 about divorce together. And it's on his YouTube. The link is in my bio. So if you would like to watch it, which I not even like, you should just watch it.
You should watch it.
It's extremely entertaining, if I may say so myself. Anyway,
what's up, Bashe?
Okay. So the first question I got, okay, here we go. This is a good one. Good morning from California. Just watched the podcast you did, Dear Future Wifey. I love what you said about forgiveness. What is it about the person that you love? ... Here's my question. What if the person you are trying to forgive is the woman that had an affair with my then husband? I pray and I struggle to heal and forgive this woman. I don't and never had love for her. What do I do? Do you have any suggestions? I pray on this every day. Long conversation with the Lord. I am struggling, and my now ex-husband still sees her. And I'm starting to let that go, but forgiveness, what to do?
I heard a quote that once said, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And so when you take that ideology and that concept, and you know that forgiveness is not only mandatory, but it's necessary for your growth and healing. If you ever want to move past something, you have to release it. And then you got to ask yourself, why aren't you forgiving? Why are you still holding on to something that may have happened 2 years ago or 5 years ago or even 6 months ago? There's nothing you can do that can change the outcome or the reason why they did what they did. You'll never get justification or understanding about that. But you can free yourself to be able to receive that which you are entitled to receive from a healthier perspective by releasing that and letting it go. Because as long as you're holding on to bitterness, there's no way that you can get forgiveness, and there's no way you can receive healing. And so it's a reciprocal thing. Let that mess go so God can bless you with your best. And I understand it's hurtful, it's painful. It doesn't excuse the behavior of what happened to you or whatnot, but there's nothing you can do but forgive in order to move forward. So the question of how, Sam, what would you say about how could they forgive? What's the process?
I think for me in this situation, and I'm going to go backwards to go forwards. So a lot of my issue becomes, okay, this woman don't have a commitment to you. She ain't never had a commitment to you. Y'all have never had a relationship. It sounds like you don't really have an issue with your ex-husband because you said you've let that go. But you still have an issue with the woman that he chose. The only person that owed you anything was him. So we're going to have an axe to grind. And that becomes that I am motivated, or my mind is mentally motivated to have a relationship with this person, which is your ex-husband. So I'm going to make whatever I feel about him, and I put that on her. So she's basically essentially the scapegoat of the energy that he deserves, but you can't give it to him, or you don't feel free to give it to him, or you don't want to give him that energy. So now you giving it to her, and she really doesn't deserve that energy. So to me, I think you really need to reflect on, okay, who am I really mad at in this situation? And why is it so hard for me to let go? Because right now it just sounds like you really mad at him, but you're putting those emotions onto her. And therefore it's so hard to let go because you're not acknowledging what you're actually feeling. You have to acknowledge your emotions first.
It almost sounded like that her and the woman supposed to have some type of loyalty or whatnot. Because you see all that anger being put on her, then I'm like, was that your old best friend, or was that your cousin or something? Because it's like every negative energy is going towards her versus him, and that's quite interesting to say the least.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, and women, I think it's interesting, but it's common. That's very, very common.
It's attack the woman.
Yeah, we it's easier for us because in our minds, you know, and I know this is what we do. If there's some part of us that want to have a relationship on any level with the person that cheated, we then put it on the person they cheated with, because we want to have mentally, for it to make sense to us, it's her fault, not his. So in order for me to have a relationship, everything we do mentally has to make sense. Our brain, that's how we work. So like if I'm doing something that I know is wrong, I'm going to somehow change the behavior so it's not that wrong, so that in my mind I'm making sense. I'm always making sense. So for you to be able to have a relationship with him, you now have to put that on her. And the thing about her is that it's really, yes, some part of it, okay, it's her fault. All right, but really it's his fault. He was the one that's married to you, and whatever he does on the other side of divorce, you cannot be mad. Like, you literally have to learn how to let it go. It sounds like really you haven't really healed from the ending of that relationship, how it ended, why it ended. And sometimes, like I said, we take on as women the responsibility of why this man cheated, you know, or why, you know, it was something about me or something that she had. So it becomes me versus her, and it's not you versus her. Right. That's something internally that he's dealing with that you need to reconcile with him. Yep. Or, you know, what do you think?
And those that watch my podcast, I'm extremely transparent about my infidelity in my past marriage. And one thing, as you hear me say, I did this episode called To Cheat or Not to Cheat with Joey Greco, who was the former host of the TV show Cheaters. And he was on that episode. He was on that episode that I disclosed that information on. I put that together like that. But I took full responsibility. I never talk about what she could have did, what she should have done, or whatnot. I cheated because I had a lack of integrity, point blank, and the period. And all the other stuff doesn't matter. I had a lack of integrity, and that's what it is. And so if people look at other people's decisions as a deficiency in them, then they won't take on that responsibility, no matter what it is. I mean, it's like that is that person's problem. And you need to walk in that freedom. And I know it's hard and it's easier said than done, but it's the fact. There's no other option of that, because she still could have cheated on me after I cheated on her, but she chose not to. And she had, quote unquote, by the hood standard, she had every right to get back at me, so to speak, but she didn't. And so it's 100% my lack of integrity.
You know, I would say that, and this is just me being transparent, when I was cheating, because, you know, I've been cheating. I didn't cheat in my marriage, but I've cheated on people. And I've said publicly, my cheating really was insecurity within me. It had nothing to do with other people. It had everything to do with me feeling like I'm not enough, with me feeling like I didn't love myself enough, and I didn't feel like anybody could love me wholly for everything that I was. So I always had outs because of my own personal insecurities, my own personal inadequacies. And so I say that now to everybody that I, you know, in the past that I've ever, you know, we cheated or anything like that. It had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with what I was dealing with internally, that unfortunately I bled on people that didn't cut me.
Oh, talk about it. Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. And I think I think with men, it also, I mean, because a lot of men, it starts with ego, you know, like a lot of things is, especially when you haven't, like, Latteras, you've done your work. And I really would love for people to know more about you as a person, because I think you're so dope. I think your story's dope. I think everything about you is dope. But I think that, like, a lot of men, they go from a place of ego, like, I'm going to do things to protect my ego. So if anything, like, when you look at that and how they move and how men I've seen move, which, Latteras, you can argue with me at any point, but I feel like primitively, it's to protect the ego. So anything at all costs to protect the ego. If I feel like this potentially can lead to rejection, or this could potentially lead to pain and hurt, I'm going to take myself out because I'm afraid of my ego being hurt. I cannot handle or hold my ego being bruised. So therefore, this person rejects me, I go sleep with 10 other people in order to fill me back up.
100%.
It's all about ego, you know?
Yes.
And so I think it also goes back down to, like, if he's cheating, it may be something that he's feeling about himself, where I think a lot of men, well, I'm talking.
I don't think it may be. I think it is something he feels about himself. Every time I cheated on my wife, it was always internal. Wow. You know, it was always internal. It was the thought before I cheated. And if I go back and unpack that, it's because I thought something first. And it wasn't even about the person. It was something about me. And then because even when I went to this program, at my church called Celebrate Recovery. And the program taught us to unpack our hurts, habits, and hangups. That was the catchphrase, our hurts, habits, and hangups. And I first went there and I said, we had to introduce yourself as your issue that you have, your deficiency. Then you say who you are in Christ, and then you say your government name. So as such, it'll be like, hey, I struggle with sexual addiction. You start off with who God calls you to be. Hey, I'm a mighty man of valor, chasing after God's heart. I struggle with sexual addiction. Hello, my name's Latteras. And wow. I used to say that. I said that the first 3 times, and God said, you don't have a sexual addiction. I said, yes, I do. He said, let's be transparent. In the last year and a half, it was 16 months. My wife and my ex-wife and I went through 16 months of not having sex, period. And when I say not having sex, I wasn't masturbating. I wasn't doing anything because I was married, but didn't want to. I was like, you know what? After I told her about the affairs and stuff like that, I didn't even want to have sex with my wife again. I told the counselor, I said, I don't want to have sex with another woman unless it's my wife, including my wife. I don't want to have sex with another woman unless it's my wife, including my wife. That's what I said. How does that
work, though?
That means that I didn't know if this person I was with was somebody I wanted to stay married with. And I didn't want to then, after I violated the marriage, then in my mind, violate her again, having sex with her, knowing in my mind I had already checked out of the marriage. Wow. And so I said, I don't want to have sex with another woman unless she's my wife, including my wife. And so it was crazy, but God had to heal that brokenness. But when I would introduce myself in our small group, God said, you don't have a sexual addiction. You have a codependency issue. And I said, codependency? I'm not codependent. I don't drink alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic. He thought, no, you're codependent on my love language is words of affirmation. You're codependent on praise. You need people's approval. So when you see me be as transparent as I am in this season of my life, in the last couple of years, I've been walking in total, like, I don't need people's approval. It's literally me saying, this is who I am. If you like it, hey, we can rock. If you don't, God bless you. I don't seek people's approval at all. And so I said, okay, God, all right, you're right. Because at that time prior to that, I was touring across the country with national plays, with celebrities all in my plays, sold out shows all across the country. And then the economy went bad. My money dried up. You know, I went from making tens of thousands of dollars a week to absolutely nothing. And I didn't realize that my value was attached to the success. And when the success dried up, I was like, okay, now who am I? Now let's backtrack. I said that I wanted to, in my mind, I said I wanted to acquire these certain possessions and financial stability, and then I would deserve a wife. So then my girlfriend at that time, I proposed to her because I was like, hey, you've been rocking with me for the last few years. Let's make this thing official. But then when you know, the opposite of that, when all the money dried up, I was like, I self-sabotaged my marriage because I kept saying, I don't even know why you want to be with me. Here I am. I just filed bankruptcy. I'm losing everything. Like, what the heck? And she's like, I don't care about any of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about that. And I was like, but I care. I made up in my mind that a man is supposed to have these, you know, this level of finances in order to sustain his household. And so, so that codependency that God was telling me about was exactly that I needed that stuff in order to make me who I was. And then I self-sabotaged my marriage. And so, like I said, we even got through that process about 5 years later, and then I just realized that we still didn't, you know, need to be married or whatnot. And then I filed for divorce. But that's what God was healing me from. Yeah, I filed for divorce. I filed for divorce 2015, and the divorce was final about 3 months later. But she and I are really cool friends, which we talked about in our episode, because I told God, teach me how to divorce her with grace. I said, I want to divorce her with grace. I don't want her ever feeling like she was inadequate, that she could have did this better in order to keep me and all. No. No. It was time for me to move on. This is what it was. And of course, I don't reveal exactly what made me transition from that, but it was, I watched God heal that relationship due to me, you know, walking in grace.
That's amazing. And I think that what's really good about what you said, which I'll post this in a second once we're done with this. But I was going to put our episode name and everything down for people that are just joining. But anyway, like what you just said, I don't know why it's not letting me get out of here. I'm sorry.
No, you good, dude.
There we go. Okay. So for me, I think that, you know, when what you said it's so deep, because I learned in my therapy process and in my journey that I definitely struggled. Like, I was taught to people please. Like, I always want everybody to be okay with me. And so I would always like take on the responsibility of other people's happiness, other people being okay, other people's their stuff. I would take responsibility for it. I would try my best to make everybody okay with me, which then led me feeling empty for me, because I'm being all these things for all these different people, but who I am for me, I don't know. And so then it made it very easy for people to define what that looked like for me. So I was never really fulfilled, because I really didn't know who I was outside of who I was trying to be for everybody else. And I think that, you know, Steve Harvey said something in his book, which, you know, some people don't listen to or do. He said that he doesn't think a man can truly commit, which I think it would be interesting for you to hear this, but he said Steve Harvey believes that a man can't truly commit to a woman without being in a secure place in his career. Meaning that he's working within the field that he wants to work in. He's maybe not making the money he wants to make, but he's like on the way, like he's in that track. But a man can't settle. His spirit can't settle until he gets to a place of stability in his life and in his career. And
I can believe with I can agree with that.
You can?
I can agree with that. Yeah, with a certain type of man. Now, if it's a man that likes to be taken care of from a woman, that he can settle anything. He's like, good, I done got my money back, so hey, she can take care of me. But an alpha male, someone that takes pride in taking care of his family, is going to be extremely hard for him unless he, like you said, or Steve said, has some sense of stability, because he's going to feel inadequate. You know, and you got to think about how much advertising has taken place with men taking care of their households, or if you watch the Housewives of Atlanta franchises, or the Housewives franchises, it's about the money. It's about the women being able to just go off and go on shopping sprees and buy whatever, you know, Christian Louboutin shoes and all that stuff. And if a man sees that, or you even look in the rap videos, it's the man throwing the money everywhere with the cars and all that. It's because it's the financial standpoint that makes a man feel like he's adequate, makes him feel like he's that he has value. And I believe that that's such a toxic mentality, because as you see, when my money got funny, I said, oh, I don't deserve this woman.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where'd you get that from? You know, this is for rich or for poor. That's the reason why I've been unpacking these marriage vows, because I said these vows and didn't even realize the gravity of these vows, this oath that I took. And so this marriage vow series that I just did on the podcast was so like, it was life altering, because I said, okay, when I do this again, we going to till death do us part. I'm finna rock with it how hey, whatever the process is, whatever we have to go through, I'm making a commitment to the commitment, and I'm married to the marriage. And so, but yeah, Steve had a great point. I agree with
that. Okay, so let me get to the next question because I know we can keep talking.
Yeah.
Go left. Okay. All right. So here's the question. I'm currently going to be putting in my paperwork for my divorce 20 years later. Although we've been separated for years, we still found ourselves living under the same roof, but in different relationships. It's been such a roller coaster and gotten unhealthy. So this is why I'm finally ready to make our divorce concrete. I find myself feeling my heart rate rise, thinking about how this time has come. And I'm wondering why I'm feeling this way. If we both moved on a long time ago, could you help me find some understanding or just some advice from y'all's point of view?
You're dying. People don't understand that a divorce is a death. So you should feel everything that you feel.
That's good.
It's interesting to me that people can be separated for years. I mean, literally live on as a separate relationship, be 4 or 5 years. I had a friend, I was like, I didn't even know that he was married. I've been friends with him for like 4 years. And then he ended up telling me, I said, man, you've been with this woman for the longest. Why don't y'all get married? And he said, man, I got something to tell you. I said, what? He said, I'm already married. I said, you married? When did you get married? I said, this whole time, I said, you done had a kid by this woman, and you've been married this whole time? He said, yeah. I said, what's taking you so long to file? He said, well, first she was supposed to do it, and then I was supposed to do it, and neither one of us did it. Wow. And so that was quite interesting how they could live separate lives and go on as if they're not married. But it took so much work just in the commitment to say, let's go ahead and file for this. Now, eventually they end up doing it, but I know what happens is even when I went through my divorce, even though when I decided to file for divorce and when the divorce was final, December the 29th of 2015, I remember the day I filed for divorce. I mean, the day my divorce was final, and I walked out the courthouse and I said, I just felt empty. I felt this aloneness sweep over me like crazy. Now, mind you, I was dating a girl at that time and still felt alone. And I was like, who am I? Like, I felt like I had to wrestle with my identity, find out who. I just didn't know. I was so lost. And I said, wow, this is what it's supposed to feel like. It's supposed to feel like that because the Bible says that the two shall become one. Yeah. So if we are one flesh, and I was married for almost 10 years, 2 weeks, 10 years. So if you're one flesh and you decide to rip that person apart, you should feel a brokenness. And I'm glad I would never take that feeling away. I would never even take that feeling away because I recognize the gravity of marriage. It shouldn't be like I dated some girl, broke up with her, and then went and got with somebody else. It should feel I should feel a tearing away at my soul and my spirit. And that's what I felt. So what she's feeling is that all this time she's been chilling, but then when she says, oh gosh, I'm going to actually get a divorce, all the weight of those vows is crashing on her. And she said, wow, I promised forever with this person. We said for better, for worse, or through all these vows that they said, or even if they wrote their own vows, they said some stuff in those vows that they made an oath. And God treats oath and vows as a blood covenant. Right. And they just said, hey, that was great for right now, but I should have put an expiration date on it and let me leave. But you're going to still feel it from a spiritual standpoint. So I'm glad she feels that. She's got to go through the process. The process.
Absolutely. And I would 100% agree. I don't even know how you have lived under the same roof and y'all are in different relationships. Like that would have never worked in my situation at all. That would be horrible. We would have made TMZ a long time ago. That would have been horrible. You living under the same roof, we dating other people, like me and my ex personality. Oh, we fighting. We going to war. Okay?
Everybody fighting. The couple's fighting. Everybody.
That fighting. Is not a good situation. The fact that you're able to write me today is a blessing, Lord.
Free. You'll be able to write and not in jail.
I know. Like, at least you're writing me from the confines of your home, Lord. But, like, the fact that you were able to... Because to me, here's the thing. like when you're talking about like filing the paperwork, like Laterras said, it feels like something, a part of you is dying. You're putting something to death. I don't care where you are in your marriage. I don't care if you've been separated for however long. When you file that paperwork, there's something very final about it. And our society is afraid of final. We're afraid of commitment. We can live separately and be divorced, you know, living divorced, having other relationships. We could be in a relationship for 10, 15 years and still not want to sign paperwork because it's really final. It's really, we can't commit to that. And unfortunately, no matter how you slice it, dice it, filing that divorce paper, there is something to it. I don't care who you are, where you are in your marriage. I don't care how many relationships you've had on the side. That's putting something to death, and it's like grieving the loss of a person. It really is. You're going to go through the grief process. So you're going to go through the 5 stages of grief. So you just got to know, like Laterras said, it is absolutely normal to go through the feeling of like, wow, that I'm about to kill this thing. I am about to kill my marriage. I'm about to file this paperwork. I'm about to kill my marriage. This is the end. This is really the end. We're really ending now. And that is a scary thought. I don't care where you are in your process. That is a hard thing to wrestle with, conceptualize. And like I said in our episode, which you guys watch, it's a very, very hard decision. It's not one you take lightly. But the fact that y'all been living under the same roof and y'all been dating other people, you should put that thing to death. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I mind you, I don't know what your relationship is, but if you guys can have whole relationships in the same house, there's a level of numbness y'all have to each other.
Have to.
Because your husband sleeping with some woman in your house. Laterras,
you gonna point back there? You gonna point back there? He back there?
A little bit.
He back there? You gonna point back there?
Like, if I hear something, look, don't.
You gonna instantly be triggered. You gonna be triggered and running.
Look, y'all gonna get an unredeemed sound. I don't care how far away. Maybe that's just me. But if it's somebody that you're married to, you have a child with, y'all in the same house, he sleep with somebody in one room, y'all in the upstairs room sleep with somebody else, he's not upset with the male ego the way that it is. Like, like, men don't even have to like you years later, but they still mad you sleeping with that dude down the street. Like, oh,
100%.
They ain't got to deal with you for 5 years. Men, that's what I'm saying. Men have the unique ability to still be possessive over things they don't want. Like, that's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for real. I'm just saying for real. For him to not even feel like my wife is sleeping with, dating, kissing, watching movies with a dude in my house that I pay bills with, I may not want her. I may not care what happens. I may not want her, but I don't want her with nobody else. And I hate to say this, I damn sure don't want to see it. So the fact that you are able to write me that message is a blessing, Lord.
It's a blessing. Receive it. Receive. That's the testimony. That's the true testimony.
That's the testimony, Lord.
It's a testimony.
Yes, Lord. Girl, but that means to me your marriage has been dead. And I think that sometimes we let dead things live too long. Yeah. We just do. We let things last too long and we allow those things to because it prevents you from being able to truly move forward and move on and really start wherever that person deserves freedom to figure out what they want. You deserve freedom to figure out what you want. And if you go into a situation and you're technically married, there's a certain stigma with that. Even if you've been separated for 15 years, there's just a certain stigma. There's something about, let's say you start dating somebody. Well, you've been separated for 15 years, but I ain't never filed the paperwork. That to another man would be like,
what you holding on to?
Are you still sleeping with him?
Yeah. What you holding on to?
What you holding on to? Like that. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily look like to me like you really trying to move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. but
I think Sam was triggered. Sam got triggered.
I'm triggered because Power Up knows. Power Up is in the building. Power Up knows that one of my worst moments. Okay, so I asked my group 3 questions, right? I asked them 4 questions when they start. They say, what's their name, where they from, and what's the craziest thing you've done in or for a relationship? And the 4th one is, why'd you join Power Up, right? I got 2 crazy stories because I can't ask them to share without me being open to share too. And they know I say, okay, here's the 2 choices. Window.
I love this story. You ain't gonna say it now?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
That was funny. That story is hilarious.
It's either window or blackout. You can choose which one you want. Choose either one. But if you know those stories, you know that Sam couldn't handle nothing like that. Even if I didn't want him. Even if that I was like, I don't want you. Leave me alone. We done. I'm over it. Like if I did all that, but you walk in the house with a whole other woman. Like for real. I'm just saying. There's something about it as a woman. Ask the women on here. Women, y'all could be done with the dude, right? And yet if you physically see him with another woman, there's something about you that's like, wait, hold up, what? Oh, let me just get him back so he not with nobody. Like that's what women think. That's what women think. We're psycho.
Let me get him back so he ain't with nobody.
I just need to get him back because I don't want him with her. I don't want him with her. I want him to keep wanting me when I don't want him. That's a comfortable position. That's a power position. You know what I'm saying? We like that position. We're like, keep wanting me. I don't want you. Leave me alone. Move on. I don't want you. He actually moves on, right? And the women's like, wait, hold up. Wait, he moved on? Hold up. Whoa. Who is that? Oh no, she ain't even cute. Like, what are we talking about?
Oh, God.
I'm gonna pull up on him real quick. I'm gonna hit him with that hey text. That is what we as women do. Look at the women. They laughing. They know we psycho. We think that. Unless you're redeemed like me.
Unless you're redeemed like you.
Unless you're redeemed.
Oh God! Oh, my head hurt.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. Let's hear. Let me go to the next question, my man.
Next question.
Okay. Hi, Samantha. I too am going through a divorce and have 2 beautiful girls. It has been very difficult for me and almost impossible to keep my head, my mind, and my body together. Please give me more pointers on how to cope with this rejection and feeling of hopelessness. Thank you.
Sam, that's you.
No, you gotta go too. We both went through it.
Yeah, we can, but you said
through a divorce or gone through a divorce.
Well, when you say, because from the other side of it, I don't know how to help her deal with the rejection. Because I was the one that was quote unquote doing the rejection. Wow. And so but I can speak about rejection as a whole. I don't know if I saw this quote before or a guy gave it to me or whatever, but I look at rejection as God's protection. I say oftentimes rejection is God's protection. I always look at whatever's going on and say, how would it work out if I had it my way, so to speak? For instance, let's say that it's somebody that I really like, but they don't like me back. So do I really, really want them if they're rejecting me? Like, do you really, really want that? So if you're married to somebody and you spent 5 years with this person and in 5 years you quote unquote couldn't convince them that you are the only person that they need to have and they need to spend forever with, then do you want to spend 5 more years trying to convince them of said thing? Do you want to spend 5 more days? And so I'm really big. I'm one of those glass is halfway full rather than empty type of person. So I'm very optimistic. And so I like to look at situations to say, listen, they didn't want you. It hurts, but there's always somebody that will. that the very thing that people hate about you or that person hate about you, there's somebody else that they go, you know what? You know, when you laugh and you snort, that is so sexy to me. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's like, I can't stand when you laugh, you snort. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, you just sound terrible. It's like a little pig. You know, somebody, that is so cute when you do that. And it's like, it's the same thing. You'll find the idiosyncrasies that you have that somebody that annoyed one person, the other person will welcome it. You know, and be like, man, I love it when you do that. And so I always tell people to be as optimistic as possible. There's nothing you can do to go fix somebody that's broken or whatnot, or somebody that's rejecting you, to say, you know what, it hurts. There's nothing I can do about it. And so God is protecting me from wasting any more time, any more years, any more tears with this person.
Right.
And when you get on the other side of those tears, you'll find healing. You'll see sunlight. You'll see sunshine. You'll see all of that. But you just got to go through that stormy season in your life.
Right. I also would encourage you. There's a really good series that I saw. And y'all know I love me some Dr. Darius Daniels, y'all. Change Church. Shout him out, you know. He has a series, and sis, I hope you're watching. It's called Moving On from the Life You Thought You Wanted. It's a 3-part series. And part 2 is how he talks about how. And one thing in that episode is so good because he talks about how Satan. So he talks about the story with Moses. Moses had died in the story. Moses had died. And he went on a walk with the Lord, and he never came back. And so what happens is you see this argument between an angel, Michael, and Satan about where Moses' body needs to be buried. And God wanted Moses' body to not be found. He didn't want it to be found. And the devil wanted it to be known. He wanted the body to be found in a certain place. And the reason why was because people would get so caught up on Moses and his death and what he's done and who he was, how good he was to them in that season, that they wouldn't be able to receive who was coming in their next season.
Oh,
so
talk about it. Jesus.
What he's saying is
I'm already about to preach with you.
Yeah. What he's saying is that, you know, at the end of the day, we can get so caught because something was good to us in one season. The enemy gets us so caught up into what was once good about it. And we can romanticize, fantasize, and get lost in what was good about it, that we don't allow ourselves to be open to what God's next season is. And yes, we can. And he said, you know, in the thing, he talks about how we have to acknowledge the pain, acknowledge what we're hurt about, what we're actually feeling, what we're experiencing, acknowledge like, hey, I'm sad. I'm hurt by the fact that this relationship is no more. I feel rejected. I feel hopeless because this man don't want me no more. Acknowledge how you feel. Don't leave it in the dark. Even if it's the craziest, wildest things that you're thinking, what he says on that is acknowledge it. The next thing he says to do is to also acknowledge your entitlement. We always get caught up in what we think we deserve. We deserve death. And he says in the thing, he's like, well, you want to talk about you want to talk about what you deserve. Let's talk about the things that no one knows about. Let's talk about the things that only you and me know about. And that's him with, you know, whoever was God. Yeah. And he talks about, in addition to that, stop looking backwards. He said, if they got so caught up, he talks about Lot's wife and how we get so caught up looking backwards, and that she turned into a pillar of salt. And what he says is in this thing, which I probably know word for word now, what he says is, you notice that people that look backwards are salty. Yet Lot's wife, Pilar, looked like turned into a pillar of salt when she looked back at where she was going, you know, leaving from and going to the new town. And so I say all of that to say, really get into acknowledging what you're dealing with, acknowledge it, and understand that, and this is another Dr. Darius Daniels thing, but David was better than Saul. David was a better king than Saul. I mean, yes. Although Saul looked like what the Israel thought they wanted as king, he was inadequate. He fell short. He got cocky. He got arrogant. But then you have on the other side, David, who they did not acknowledge as king. They didn't even see him coming. You know, Samuel goes to the house. They said, go to Jesse's house. He didn't tell him any other instruction besides go to Jesse's house. And he goes through all the sons. He even goes through the son that he thinks looks like a king.
Yes.
And he's like, no, that ain't him. This is the one out in the fields.
In the field, tend to the sheep.
Right. But he was a better king than Saul. And so don't get so caught up on your Saul that you don't see David. Don't get so caught up on your last season that you're over here like, man, I can't do it. There is better. There's always better. I don't care where you are in your life. And so a part of you believes that this is the best you can do. But I'm telling you, if you've been rejected by him, if he doesn't see the value in you, if he doesn't just like bask in your presence or fight for you, or if he filed or whatever that is, that has nothing to do with you. He's just not your one, and it's okay. Whoever's on the other side of this thing is gonna love you, is gonna honor you, and is gonna think that you're worth it, and you will never feel like you're not enough. Well, you first have to get to a place of acknowledging that where you are right now, you have to acknowledge it as God's protection. You have to know that I can't keep looking back at this last season and all the positive moments. We've got to put that thing to death and not look back to death and not look back at it anymore. It is what it is. It's over with, and handle that. You know, acknowledge how you feel and bury it. It's time to put those things to death. And I think a lot of what you might be feeling is looking backwards at like, okay, what we used to be and how he used to feel and how the moments we used to have. Those are all cute and great and fine and dandy. But he just isn't the person for this season, and that's okay. God's got greater, and I have a lot of faith in that. A lot of faith.
I love that. I love everything. Oh yeah, I'm trying to hold myself because you're about to start preaching right there.
I was
like, okay.
I was thinking I was in Miracle Monday, and
I felt all Miracle Mondays all through you right here.
Yeah, I was I was in that. Don't look back. Don't look back. So
don't look back.
I was going to say, but again, that's the sermon. It says, moving on from the life you thought you wanted. Moving on from the life you thought you wanted. It's a 3-part series. It's great. And also, he has a sermon about rejection. He says, recovering from rejection or recovering rejection, which is really good as well. So you guys want to look at that.
I mean, and that's our human nature is to always look back. I mean, you even saw with the children of Israel when God was taking them to the promised land. They kept looking back saying, oh, it was better. It's crazy how we have a tendency to fantasize a bad situation. And romanticize a bad situation and be like, well, I mean, Pharaoh wasn't that bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, hold on. You remember how you wanted to leave slavery? But then when you go through that wilderness stage, and we all get hung up in that wilderness stage, it's that wilderness stage where doubt creeps in, and we have this tendency to believe that what God is delivering us from was better than where he's taken us to. And so the promised land is still set before us. We still got to go on that journey and have the faith and the wherewithal that God says that the steps of the righteous are ordered. So these steps that you are taking already has been ordered by God. And if you learn the process, if you submit to the process, he's going to mature you and grow you to a certain level that when you look back on it, you go, I can't believe I thought like that. But you got to get to the other side of it. And it's so beautiful because had I not went through that painful experience in my marriage, and even after that, then this podcast that people are being so healed and transformed by, it would have never existed. But I had to go through that process. I didn't give up in the midst of it. I stayed with the process. Right. Go ahead.
And I want you to, speaking of your podcast, some of you guys don't know, some of you guys are tuning in, don't know who Laterras is or what the Dear Wifey podcast is. So can you explain it? Just explain who you are, where you're from, and how you got to this place.
So the Dear Future Wifey Podast is my podcast I started back in April the 15th of last year. And I have a video production company. And so during COVID, everything just stopped. You know, schools was getting locked down. Everybody was doing virtual learning. and I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to make money? And God said, now I need you to stop. He said, you've always made other people the client. Now it's time for you to make you your own client. Wow. And he said, I need you to now. You've been talking about doing this podcast. Now it's time for you to do it. And I said, okay, so what's this podcast going to be about? And God is always on Facebook. I used to write these letters to my future wife. I would do it. I probably did about 3 or 4 of them. And it was at this one extremely broken moment that I wrote the very first letter, which I I'll reveal when I do this movie what led to that letter. But it was this very broken moment that I wrote that letter. And so God said, I'm going to heal you and restore you. He said, I want you to do this podcast, but I want you to be extremely transparent. And I said, okay, like what? Like, what do you mean when you say transparent? What do you mean by that? You know what I'm saying? Don't talk about everything. And so literally weekly, I'm going through public therapy. I'll have guests on where I had therapists on the podcast. We talk about stuff. And it's literally, I invite people to share their own journey of whatever that subject matter is. And then I chime in sharing my transparent stories or whatnot. But at first, I was very intimidated to do that. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to sit in front of and be judged by people. You know, I didn't want people saying, well, I can't believe, oh, he cheated. I don't want to listen to him. And it's like, but the beautiful thing about it is all the lies that I told myself before starting it, I've never heard any of that. Yeah. Like, I've never heard. I remember when I did the first episode, To Cheat or Not to Cheat, I was literally shaking while I was editing it. And I sent it to my ex-wife. I said, hey, I want you to approve this episode before I release it. Because while we were married, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about infidelity. And she's like, no, I don't want you talking about that. I want you sharing that. I don't want my family asking me questions. I don't want to deal with all that. We just keep it private. Right. I said, okay, but I knew I had to release it because I know how the way my mind works. When I release something, it also allows me another level of accountability. Right. And so I said, I want to talk about this because these guys, a lot of the dudes I knew, they'll cheat on their wife and they have all these side chicks and all that. No one is like holding each other accountable. And I said, this is crazy because I was a guy that said when I was touring across the country, I said, guys that I was working with would be cheating on their wives, and I will pull them to the carpet and say, man, why are you doing this? And they were like, man, you understand. And at that time I was single. So they was like, once you get married, you'll understand. Right. And I was like, well, when I get married, I ain't gonna never cheat on my wife. I ain't gonna never blah, 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 blah.
It'll always be what you never would do.
When I tell you, I said I never would, but I never understood the systems that I need to put in place to prevent that from happening. Right. And so when I got married, and I cheated, I told my ex-wife, I said, I want to talk about it. I said, no. So then when I did the episode, I said, out of respect, I'm going to send this to her because I want her to approve it before it gets released. And she saw it and she was like, see, this is what I love about you. Like, she said, you didn't uncover me in this episode. You took 100% accountability. And she said, I love when you operate in your God space. She said, it's the most beautiful thing that she said, it's beautiful. The way you shot it is beautiful. Like, oh my God. Like, I said, that's what I loved about you. And she said, well, I don't like the fact that you got this podcast because you're over here looking for a wife when you left the one you're supposed to have. And, you know, I chuckled about all that. And I was just like, okay, all right. And at that time, I had been divorced. What was that? 5 years. Yeah, that was in 2020. So almost 5 years at that moment. And so we laughed about that. But it was so refreshing that she put her stamp of approval on it because I wanted it to be, she's a very, very private person. But for her to say, that's beautiful, go do it. You know, it was extremely validating. But God told me to do that because he was also healing me. When I tell you the second time around, I got to get it right. It's not, no, I can't be doing no third and fourth and fifth and say, I can't do it. I'm not built for that because I put so much into a marriage. When I do it, I go all in. And so I said, this time I can't do the same thing expecting a different result. I got to learn me on levels that I've never learned me. Right. The 28-year Laterras that got married, that took a vow is different from the 43-year-old Laterras. So I have to think differently, I have to move differently, and I had to learn differently. And so the process that I'm going through is literally me learning things differently so I can really understand what marriage is. And so God told me to do the podcast, I did it. And the first few months, I was like, man, this, you know, it's kind of moving a little slow. You know what I'm saying? And God said, keep the main thing the main thing. It's not
the main thing.
Yeah, it's not about other people. Because I kept saying, man, I'm getting like 500, 700 views on this. Yeah. You know, and I was like, wow, this is terrible. No one cares. No one cares about my podcast.
No one cares about me.
No one cares about me. And God said, listen, despise ye not the day of small beginnings.
Oh, hello.
And when God told me that, I said, okay, he said, remember the process. Remember this process as I'm healing you through it. And it's not about views. It's not about anything else but you being transparent. And I'm going to tell you how God guides us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit. Even the process is God's divine governance.
Right.
Because if I started out and the first episode, because I think I did the one about the infidelity, probably episode 3 or 4 or whatnot.
Right.
Think about it, if I had 1 million people, 1 million eyes watching me before I released that episode, I probably wouldn't have released that episode telling 1 million people, hey, I
know
cheated
it.
at the very beginning.
That's true.
Because I was already nervous about the 500 subscribers that I had at that time. I was like, oh, Lord, the majority of these subscribers is 98% women. They going to think I'm a dog. They going to I ain't going to never listen to a word he has to say. And I said, well, this was suicide. So, and God said, do it, release it. And I said, okay. And so I did it. And so what God did in his omniscience is he had me reveal that then and continue to walk with me. And then about 2 months later, it blew up. I got like 10,000 subscribers in 1 month, and then another 10,000 the next month. And now I'm at 65,000 subscribers on the road to 100K in just a year and a half, you know, but it was God literally. And people, if I could just go through my DMs and tell people all the testimonies I've gotten men. I had a friend, I get emotional when I touch men. I had a friend, I never knew that he had left his wife. And he left his wife last year, and he was kicking it with his mistress and was living with her. He would just text me and be like, man, I like your podcast. I said, oh, I didn't know you watched it. Thank you. Next week, man, that was powerful, man. That touched me. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you watched that. It was powerful. Next week, I need to talk to you. Oh, what's going on? And he began to tell me, yeah, you don't know this, but yeah, I left my wife. What happened? He said, man, I got married at a young age, and I just felt like, you know, I wasn't being served in my marriage. I don't feel like we were right for each other, all this stuff. Long story short, we got on that phone and we talked. We began to pray. He is now with his wife. He's back with his wife. They are rebuilding their marriage.
Wow.
I get emotional about that because I say, God, you took my brokenness and you're healing other men from my brokenness. When I didn't get it right, that you turned my failure and you took what I looked at failure and you're using it for purpose. You took my pain and you're using it for a platform. Yeah. And men are inboxing me like crazy. I got some dude left a message on my message board on YouTube about 6 months ago that said that he was contemplating suicide. I inboxed him. I responded. I said, what's your number? I said, go on Instagram and DM me your number. He DM'd me. I called him immediately. He was like, I can't believe you're calling me. He was like, you're this famous YouTube guy. I said, I'm nobody. I'm a servant of God. Bro, we got to talk. And we began to talk. He didn't cheat on his wife. His wife assumed that he was cheating on her. And he was just, you know, he was crossing those boundaries where he was flirting with this girl and all that type of stuff. And then he wasn't doing well financially. So the wife was like, listen, we ain't going to be dealing. He kept getting fired from different jobs. She said, listen, you ain't going to be sitting cheating on me and you broke. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those things. So she left him. And this is around Christmas time. Because I remember when I was talking to him and he was rebuilding his life. He had an air mattress in his apartment. And I just talked to him, and I was like, man, it's not over. It's not over. He's like, I deserve all this. And she went on, and she's happy with this other man, and I know he makes her happy. And he was just beating himself up so badly. And I said, bro, the fact that you were humble enough to leave the comment that you left, God is pursuing you. He said, how? How do you know that? I said, because I'm on the phone with you talking to you right now. God used this dude all the way from Dallas, Texas, from a podcast to reach out to you, to a total stranger, and begin to pour into you and encourage you. That's how valuable you are to God. And man, we got on that phone, we talked to you, he gave his life to Christ. Beautiful moment. And so there's a lot of moments like that has happened with me and brothers. There's probably 20 times more with women that decided to believe in love again because they've been so hurt, they've given up on relationships, and they've said, you know what, at the end of my podcast, it ends with, and don't stop loving. Because I want to encourage people that the most beautiful thing, the closest we can get to God is love, because God is love. So we can't operate in hate. operating in hate and bitterness and all that, we're removing ourselves from God. But when we say, you know what, I love people. Yeah, people have done me wrong, and they're just people. That's why I love the Jonathan McReynolds song, People. Because it's just people. They're just people. And if we could crucify our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, then come on, do I expect everybody to treat me right? They're going to crucify me with their words. They're going to crucify me with their actions. I may crucify people with my infidelity in the past or whatnot. It's the fact of saying, listen, we are humans, and God is using us to either heal people or break people. Where the devil will use us to break people, but God is using us to heal people. So I said, God, I want to be the change agent. I want to be that person that has submitted my will to your will and say, God, whatever it is that you want me to do, do it. And so that's what the Dear Future Wifey Podcast is. It's my journey as I discover, uncover, and recover love.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. And that's, I mean, y'all, as you know, some of you guys do know, some of you guys don't. But I met, or I started watching the podcast off of a recommendation in my Power Up group. Watch his episode with Jessica Reedy, which is a great episode. Especially ladies, you know, for sure, watch that one. And then started watching Christian Key's episode, and then I watched a bunch of other ones. I just allow it to replay, and it's such a great podcast. And there's not enough men that are doing their work on the other side of divorce. They just jump into another marriage, they jump into another relationship, and they're not doing the work that is needed or taking accountability or any of those things. And a lot of, you know, men are the ones we have to focus on, because, you know, women, we go to therapy quick. A man is not as likely to go to therapy, not as likely to address what they're dealing with mentally. And so you'll have a lot of men that put on a show and put on a face, but they're not okay. They're not okay. All. And there's women that are dealing, you know, they're dealing with them, and they're like, okay, well, I'll accept it as what it is. But it's like you as anybody, if you know somebody that's struggling, and you know, even if it's a guy that you're dealing with that's struggling, it's okay to be, listen, you know, you may need some healing for this, or you may need to go and talk to somebody about that. I don't think we need to just destigmatize men getting healed and men doing the work that they need to do to be able to have functional and healthy relationships, just like us women put all this energy into, because that's the issue. There's a disconnect in us getting all the help and talking to all the therapists and taking all of the mental health medication you could think of. And then there's men that are, you know, 2 or 3 times more likely to commit suicide and complete it versus a woman.
Yes.
And so we have to just be extremely, you know, we have to encourage our men to heal, and we have to create a safe space for them to do so. We cannot criticize a man for getting his healing or going after it or doing whatever he needs to do. I think it's absolutely beautiful for a man to take accountability for his actions. And I think there's not enough men that are doing that. Instead, okay, well, yeah, I did that, but here I am with my new chick. It's like, no, we still haven't. You know, it's okay to say I'm not okay. It's okay to say I messed up. I want this, you know, I want this relationship. I want this back. And a lot of men are dealing with ego. Again, a primitive way of dealing with our emotions. So anyway, I go all over the place. But here's another question. Okay, so this was the question that here's the question. How do I get over past emotional and sometimes physical abuse? He's changed completely.
Are they in the relationship? I would want more context. Are they trying to get over it while they're in the relationship still? Married, boyfriend, girlfriend relationship? I don't know how to respond to that. Yeah,
that's a tough one. And I'll say shortly, we didn't have a lot of context because that's a lot to unpack in just one statement. But I would say in general, I think anything is redeemable. It's a little 100%. Tough when you talk about physical abuse, because physical abuse is something that is what most people say, once you go there, you can't go back. Because, you know, that's just what people say.
That's what people say.
That's what people say. Hey, that's what people say. Look, you know, but, you know, I'm just saying, that's what people say.
That's what people say.
But I again, you know, I think that you have to be extremely careful. And you have to really, I mean, it's very comfortable to go back. It's very, very comfortable. You know, I think, you know, I hate to say this, but most men come back. They come back. They're
Yeah.
like, they like home. They come back home.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I would say that, you know, really make sure that if it's something that is emotional and physical abuse, that you're not making this decision by yourself, that you are not, that if this is a situation that both parties were abusive, that both parties, you know, had whatever, you need to make sure that there's somebody in the mix, a therapist, somebody in the mix to make sure that this comes together healthy. But physical abuse is tough for me. That's a tough one. I don't necessarily say go back to relationships that were previously in any way, shape, or form abusive, but when they're abusive in multiple categories, because there's emotional, physical, sexual, psychological, physiological, there's so many different categories of abuse, but when it's more than one, that's one that I would be like, he's changed completely, what, for 2 weeks? He's changed.
And that's why I want to know. When she said change completely, I'm like, what is that measured by?
Right,
you know,
exactly. How operationally define that?
Yeah.
How do we know that he's changed? So I'm more about your safety than I am about you being comfortable with a dude you used to be with, and y'all don't have this relationship, and now he's like, I've changed, I've met Jesus, and it's like, okay, well, your safety is paramount. You know, this case with this young girl that everybody's seen. Well, a lot of people have seen with the YouTuber Gabby Petitio, which God rest her soul. But again, that's why I don't take abuse lightly. There's a young girl that I believe died at the hands of physical abuse. So again, you know, I don't take that lightly. Okay. So anyway, I think the next, I know, guys, this went by really, really fast. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Sam, you sound like you're about to end it. Yeah. You know, it ends at 8, but I will end. Laterras, are you open to answer one more question? Let me know.
Of course. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for everybody that's in Power Up, y'all already know Laterras is gonna rock with us for a little bit. So if you guys have questions, you don't have to submit it. We're gonna rock on Zoom for a little bit after this.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, but the agreement spiritual. Okay.
They saying, where can you get that lit top? You can go get it at dearfuturewifey.com. Dearfuturewifey.com.
Yes. And okay, so this person wrote, how do you deal with a past partner who loved the Lord and your connection was very spirit-filled? What happened in that relationship, y'all? What happened to the partner? Does the partner leave? The partner pass
What's the rest of the story? I was waiting for the punchline. You
right,
said,
no, that was it. That was all I got. That was all I got.
So what, how you deal with a partner that was spirit filled?
Find another one.
Yeah.
You know that? Look,
Yes.
hey, you know what I'm saying? Look, Sam about move. If somebody, that's the thing, y'all. We get so hung up on the past, and a lot of you guys watch Dr. Darius Daniels YouTube about how to moving on from a life you thought you wanted. Literally watch it, because a lot of us romanticize. We leave the relationship, and then we romanticize about what it was without really taking into account what you dealt with. I mean, you can get to a place of being so removed, oh, that was so nice. Like the Israelites in Egypt, they leave Egypt and they're in the wilderness for a while. Wow, we got to wait on God for food. We don't know where we're going. They're creating idols and doing all these things after seeing many miracles. And they had romanticized being in slavery in Egypt. So again, y'all, just be very, be understanding of the fact that we as that's a human nature thing. I think in human nature, once we remove ourselves from something, we look back on it, we're like, oh, you know what? That was really nice. I wonder how they're doing. And it's we don't really take into account what you was really dealing with that person. So really, I know it's our tendency to romanticize, but be very, if God removes something for whatever reason, I don't care what it is. If God removes something from your life, if something happens to where you are no longer with this person, take it as I don't have to understand. I know that he's working all things out for my good. I know that I serve a God that has always had my back. So whatever has happened, whether it was a good person, somebody you felt like was a great person for you, God is absolutely sovereign. That person may have been a good person, but is not God's best. And we have to get comfortable with not knowing or understanding every aspect of why people are removed or people are brought in. It's not for us to understand. We do not need to understand God. God does not need to understand us. Like, oh God, he's a great guy. We were praying together, reading the Bible. Like, why would you take him away from me? And like,
what she put in there, she put more context. She said that the parents had fed him a bunch of lies about her, and he believed them. Oh.
Well, I'm gonna keep going with my point. Because I understand that.
No, your point is still on point, because still it's the same thing. If somebody can feed somebody lies about you and they believe it, they didn't know you. And you know, in my office, you saw the quote, "Let your character outlive their life." So if your character hasn't convinced them and they know you, you know, it's certain things that people that really, really know you, I can come to one of your road dog and say, you know, Sam said XYZ, and they'll be like, Sam didn't say that. And I'll be like, she did say that. And they'll be like, she don't even talk like that. You know what I'm saying? So when people really know your character, you should be able to convince them of what somebody said and didn't say. So if you had this dude that y'all were connected from
character sound is getting a little weird. I don't know why it sounds a little. I don't know what happened.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It just sounds like it's, I don't know how to say it, but it sounds like you're in like a filter-ish type of thing. I don't know why. But I can hear you. I just want to let you know your sounds a little different.
All right, now I'll switch my Bluetooth. Now can you hear me?
I can hear you. It sounds the same. Yeah. Oh, but it's okay. Like, just keep going. I can hear you.
Well, the main part is that when somebody truly know your character, then no one should be able to convince them. If y'all have such a strong spiritual relationship, then clearly it couldn't have been that strong if his parents can tell them stuff about you, unless it was true and they warned him about you. But if it's truly what they said wasn't a lie, then God will always reveal truth. So if you have a strong relationship with God, he has a strong relationship with God. A lie can't stand. You know what I'm saying? It just can't. I just don't believe that. So I just think there's a lot more to the story than that.
Jay told you need to go to sleep. He said go to sleep. He said it's sleepy time. That's what he said.
Jay, stop hating.
But going back to that point, I would your sound is back, by the way. But
all right.
My point in this is that regardless of how it ended. And so I think that at the end of the day, like when it comes down to it, that person is no longer in your life for whatever reason. And I say that God always has a reason. He's not impulsive. He don't make poor decisions. He's well thought out. Before you were even born, he already knew what he was going to do, what your purpose was for your life. So you have to trust that there's a God that's sovereign, that doesn't just take people away for no reason. He does it for a reason, and he's doing it for your best. So even though that seemed good, it wasn't his best. And you have to trust that God's best is on the way. God's best is on the way. And you've got to believe that. A lot of times we get so hooked up on, oh, well, he was the best that I've seen so far, so I'm going to stay right here, and I'm not going to let it go until I see something better. And that's not how faith works. It's just not.
Facts.
You know, but anyway, y'all, so I am not going to answer no more questions just to respect Laterras and his sleepy time. Then I need him to go on power up for a little bit, okay? Then give us a little, again, Laterras, thank you so much. And again, like I said on the podcast, and I'll say it here now, I have so much respect for you. I'm not going to be all emotional and stuff, but I have
don't do that to me. Don't do that to me again. I told you. Don't do
I
it.
have so much respect for you. I have so much respect for you as a man to create a platform and to publicly heal and to prepare for your wife the way that you are. I think that is admirable. I think that it's extremely attractive. And I think that I hope that you find the woman of your dreams in this journey that's going to honor the journey you took to her. And that
honor the journey you took to her. That's powerful. To honor the journey you took to her. And it's interesting that you say that, because that's exactly what I always say that. I say that the process before the promise is literally everything that I'm going through. And we use this word manifestation, and oftentimes it's overused, but it's literally me manifesting me to be the better person that can handle the better woman that I'm getting.
well, that's
And
good.
so it's all reciprocal. So I've been, thank you so much for your kind words, because that's exactly what this whole journey has been about. It's been about me literally saying, you know what, God, I really want you to choose this go around. I mean, really choose. Because we can all say, I can say that when I got married the first time, that God chose her, you know, but when I say really, really, where I know that I got to get out of my own way. And that it's certain confirmations. I'm looking for certain confirmations that take place that only God knows. That when that person says certain stuff, it resonates and speaks to me on a deeper level, to where it's like, oh, you've been talking to somebody. You done got the cheat code to my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because God is downloading information to her and vice versa. And I'll be speaking into her in ways that she's never been spoken into. And so it's a beautiful thing. Marriage. The TED Talk that I did, I've been getting a lot of feedback about that, where people have been saying, they said, hold on now, Laterras, I think you don't went the other way. How you gonna put an expiration date on marriage? I need to watch the TED Talk.
Watch the TED Talk. It's good.
Yeah, watch the TED Talk. But I think that some people that don't get it, they missed it. They miss what I'm saying in that. Right. What I'm saying in that truly is, you need to be so intentional about marriage that you do the work before you get married, and all the way through marriage, that you're always intentional about these continuing education courses that you have to take. Because when you're growing, and like I said, the 43-year-old me is not the 28-year Laterras. So that means there's some years that took place, but it's growth. It's things that I learned. It's money lost. It's success. It's failures. It's jobs had. It's me adopting kids. It's all this stuff. As my life begins to evolve and change, then it's a different version of me that you get. Well, I love to see couples that have been married 50 and 60 years, because what that tells me is they've been able to go on that journey with each other for 60 years through all those life changes. And so that's the beauty of marriage that I'm looking forward to, is to be able to grow with somebody and build legacy with.
I think that's a beautiful thing that I also want to touch on, because it made me say something. You know, women, I talk to a lot of women, and I'm going to talk to women on this live. Women and men, but women, majority. Again, we can make a list. And we can say, hey, listen, here's my list. Check it twice. This is what I want, God. I want this. I want that. But if we're not getting better, then how can we justify deserving better? How are you attracting better? A lot of women want to talk about what they want. Like, I want him to be this. I want him to be that. He need to have this. He need to have that. Oh, he definitely need to have this. And it's like, no, you need to be getting better. If you talking about you want somebody in shape, get in shape. If you talking about you want somebody spiritual, get spiritual. If you want somebody that is healed, get healed. If you talking, you can't be so, I want this and I want that. And our society justifies as like, well, whatever you want, sis, that's what you should get. You deserve what you want. No, you also have to do the work. You also have to, there is some part, anything in life. If I want a master's degree, I can't sit here and say, well, I want a master's degree. No, I got to go to college. I got to get my bachelor's first, and then I got to take tests, and I got to do this, and I got to do that to get my master's. You now have to do the work. If you know what you want, then you need to start doing the work to get yourself in a position to be able to attract what you actually want. Because a lot of y'all women are really not liking the choices that you're attracting, but there's something about you that's still attracting that. So we need to fix whatever that's attracting so that you can attract better, because whatever you've been doing hasn't been really working. So we need to do something different within you to attract better instead of just saying I want better but not doing anything to get better?
Girl, I can't. I don't even know what to say on that.
That's a whole nother podcast.
I'm gonna send you an offering. Send you an offering to
I just say that, man. We can go on lives, and I want this, I want that, I want a man to understand me, I want a man that does this, but are you understanding? Are you nice to get along with? Do you pray? Do you get over the, like, you have to, we as women in this process, and people ask me all the time, like, Sam, what have you done? I've gotten into the best shape of my life. I've tried to get myself into a better position spiritually to hear God so that I'll be able to really hear him when he needs me. I've had to confront some things. I'm in therapy every week. I've started like 4 or 5 different businesses so I can hustle and get I have tried to create the version of me that I could respect, that my baby could respect. And so therefore I can attract the man that can be like, you know what? I see that. There's something about that woman. You know, that's a wife right there. And that's what you have to start becoming what you attract. And I can tell, honestly, you can tell by dudes' choices what they're actually trying to get. They're not really looking for wives. They dating girlfriends, but you know, when they dating a wife, you're like, oh, you know what? That wife vibe going on. I can see this is a wife right here. He's really trying to marry that. But yeah, Laterras, is that true? Yes. I might be wrong.
No, it's 100%. No, it's 100%. We all say that. Like you can meet a woman, you be like, oh, that's somebody I'm gonna just play around with for a little bit. And you can tell when you're the wifey type, because he'll be like, you know, I don't want to deal with you right now. But you think that, and that's why I say rejection. You can't call it rejection. It may be a guy that you really want, but he may distance himself from you. Why? That's not a bad thing. It's because he's protecting you from him. He may be like, and you'll hear him say that, be like, man, you know, you're on a different level. You know, I'm not, you know, I ain't even ready for that right now. And you be like, no, get ready. We vibe on this or whatever. And now you're trying to convince him of something that he's subtly telling you that he ain't the one for you, that he could damage you, he could destroy you. You're like, nah, you know what I'm saying? You're a good girl. You're a good girl. He says that stuff to you and let you know, I'm a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? You a good girl. I'm a bad guy. So he's like, nah, you a good girl. Nah, I may mess you up. He's subtly telling you that he's not in a place that is healthy for you. And so when you think of that, most women be like, oh, he's rejecting me. I really like him. And he's not calling me. He's not doing this or whatever. He's not pursuing me. No, God is saving you from some heartache and some pain, because you think you want that smoke, but you don't want it. Because we all know that you get with the right dude or the right woman, it can mess your life up. It can destroy you emotionally. You can deal with somebody for a month that may take you 2 years to get healed from. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
What did this person do to me? You know, what was this? And you'll find yourself, what I thought that they really loved me. And your whole mind is second guessing who you are, second guessing your value. You losing sleep, you getting depressed, you over here doing drive-bys, looking at his house and trying to check, like, all this crazy stuff, when you should have obeyed the signs at the very beginning and said, you know what, I'm gonna take that unction, and I don't really understand it all, but they said some key stuff. That's why I said when you get healed, you can hear differently. When they say stuff, you're like, why are you saying that? Because a good dude, the dude that's supposed to be your purpose partner, ain't gonna tell you, nah, you too good for me. He's not gonna say that. He's gonna be like, you are what I prayed for. Oh, I prayed for you. You know, I fasted for you. I thank God for you. And he's gonna be so intentional about the pursuit of you. That's totally different from the other way around. God gave me this quote, which is, men should pursue and not persuade, and a woman should present and not pursue.
That's good. That's good.
We talked about this on one of the lives we had before about, I'm one of those dudes that be like, women, get off your knees, stop proposing to men. You know what I'm saying? That is so crazy to me. I don't agree with it. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. I've seen things are going upside down. The world is just going backwards. Because if you got to go pursue a man and propose to him, then you might have to keep that energy throughout your whole marriage. And you want your man to be a leader in the household. And if you had to lead him into one of the biggest decisions that he could ever make, which is, will you marry me? If you had to lead that decision, you're going to be leading a whole lot of stuff that's not going to be comfortable for you. Yeah. And so, so that's why I say a woman should present. When you've done your healing, when you've done your work, he should be able to look at you and be like, gosh, you're an amazing woman. I want that. You know, and you don't have to pursue him. You just present. And a man, for my brothers on here, a man should pursue, like, by all means. If you like her, shoot your shot, talk to her, date her properly, court her. You know, we don't even understand what courtship looks like. You know, we think courtship is WID. You know what I'm saying? That's not courtship in a text. You know, call up, ask her on a date, send her her rose. You know, go back to that old school chivalry. But then you don't have to persuade her to be with you. If you start dating her or whatnot, and she's like, I don't really feel you or whatever, don't be like, no, girl, I'm a good man. I don't see that's the problem. Your problem is you always like these type of guys. If you find yourself going into that dialogue, you've done too much. All you have to do is gracefully bow. Thank you so much. I still think you're an amazing woman, and I hope you find the person you're looking for, and bow out gracefully. Because you should never have to persuade the person that has been healed. They will see you, and their spirit will identify with your spirit, and they go, you're my Adam.
Right. I will also say, just to add to that, because it's on my spirit, there's somebody on here, and I know it. I feel it in my spirit. Somebody on here that needs to hear this part, because I heard this not too long ago. Y'all stop making decisions while you're emotionally intoxicated. We talk about being alcohol and things like that, but some of y'all are making decisions while you're emotionally intoxicated, meaning you just got through a breakup, meaning you just got through a divorce, meaning you just got through something at your job, meaning you just got through something that has affected your emotional state, something with your family, something with your friends, something that has happened to you that has made you feel emotionally intoxicated. And what we as human beings, we try to find something to an emotional cocktail to meet that emotional intoxication. And we get deeper and deeper into that. And when we're emotionally sober, we're like, I would have never chose that. That would have never been me. I would have never done that. That would have me? No, I would have never done that. But emotionally intoxicated me, I choose that every day. We have to start recognizing that sometimes we are triggered by rejection. We're triggered by things that happen in our everyday life. It could be our child ain't acting right at school. It could be a lot of different things. We can see somebody, we are then emotionally intoxicated because something else in our life is not going right. And yet we then call old boy that we know ain't got nothing good for us. He ain't got it. Or we start considering and wrapping our mind around the bad, unhealthy relationship that we were in because we don't see anything in the future. We see our homegirl that's getting married. We jealous. And so we then try to hit up everybody around us because now we're emotionally intoxicated. We're making decisions in emotionally intoxicated places. And so I'm warning y'all against making decisions in emotionally intoxicated places, and make sure you're making your decisions from a very emotionally sober place where you can trust your decision making. That's what I would say.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's all I got. That's all I got for y'all. I mean, I think there was something else I was going to say, but then that was all that emotional intoxication. I think that's all I got.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Because that was it. Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Anyway, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Latteras, I could talk to you all, like, we go 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, we can chop it up.
But y'all, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please check out Latteras and his incredible Dear Wifey podcast. You definitely can see him going through a journey. And I've always loved the way he interviews, because he interviews in such a transparent, honest way. And he really does get, he's not trying to be messy. He's really trying to get down to the nitty gritty and ask questions. And I know God's leading him. And I thank God for that, because you really healed some people by doing that. So
yeah, man, it's God. And thank you to all the amazing guests that have trusted me to come on the podcast, such as you, Sam, because going through what you're going through, it's very, it can be a little shaky to trust somebody that they're going to cover you properly and not try to get you into some tweetable moment to say, I want to make you give me this buzzword to trigger you so you can say something so it can spread and go viral and use it to be messy. But I literally prayed and asked God, which I talked about in that episode, was I prayed and asked God to make sure that he gave me the wisdom to cover you in that interview so that it wouldn't go awry. And so somebody commented on that recently, and it was like, you know what, I loved how protective you were over her in that podcast. It was a comment I was reading right before we got on this, And I was like, wow, they noticed that, because I understand divorces can be extremely messy. It can be extremely painful. Yeah. And I definitely don't want to add to it, you know, and even knowingly add to it, you know, trying to do something. Oh, I'm trying to call you know, unknowingly add to it. So it's like saying, I want to make sure that I do stuff properly. So thank you for trusting me.
No, I appreciate, no, absolutely. I mean, I think I've seen how you interview. I've seen how you work with Dear Future Wifey. And there's been a lot of different podcasts I've reached out. But it was just something I wanted to be on your podcast. I literally, it was like, put me on, I'm ready.
Put me in the game, coach.
I got a lot to say. Didn't think I was going to talk about divorce, though. That was not what I was going to do. But I did it, you know. So y'all check out that episode. It was so dope. It was so cool. And there's so many good stuff. I mean, a lot of nuggets that you can receive from that. I also want to say for y'all, I don't know why this is on my spirit right now to say this. I don't know what's going on. Y'all stop giving people ultimatums. I don't know why that was on my spirit. I don't know why I'm saying this. Somebody's out here in this. I don't know. I'm speaking to your something to somebody's spirit. Don't give nobody no ultimatum. Stop saying either do right by me or not, do this or not. If that person has not shown you, and I've said this a million times, if that person has not shown you that that is what they desire to do by their actions, meaning we've been together for 11 years and da-da-da-da. If he has not chosen to marry you after 11 years, then that is the choice that he has made. He has already shown you his answer. There's no reason to do the back and forth. There's no reason to say do this or that. It's to say, listen, I've seen that you don't want to marry me for 5 years, or I've seen that you don't want to do this or you don't want to do that. Stop giving people ultimatums. The right one is going to see you. Like Laterras says, the right one is going to see the wife in you. And if you, as you continue on this journey, like I said, don't make emotionally intoxicated decisions where you saying I do or trying to marry somebody that you know you're not supposed to marry just because you want to be married or because you're feeling insecure or whatever other feelings you may be feeling. Don't do that.
Yodi said y'all are talking to me. He said, why are you talking to me now? That word was for her. So that's what that release was for. That's why you need to say it. Yodi said she needed to hear that.
Who said that?
Yodi. Yodie.
Oh.
Yeah.
If it was for one person, then there we are.
There it is. She said she needed to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody said praying for my future husband. While you're praying for your future husband, be preparing yourself to be a wife. Because it takes more for a man to marry you, sis. I'm not saying that you don't know that, Doris. What I'm saying is a lot of women focus on, I want a man to put a ring on my finger because the validation of that really makes me feel good, versus the actual responsibility and roles that it comes with. It's not that easy to be someone's wife. It's not.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
Here.
There it is.
Okay.
Love it.
All right, Laterras, we got to go. I know we can talk.
I'm going to click on this Zoom link.
Yeah,
click on this Zoom link to see on this.
So, power up. We're going to go on again, you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Episode 31 was bomb. Turn into our episode is on the bottom. Click the link in my bio so you can watch it. It was so transparent, so dope. And yeah, you can check out Laterras on Dear Future Wifey. What other places that can they see you?
That's the main thing. Go to YouTube, subscribe.
Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you guys. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, y'all. Let's not just be every once in a while. Let's become family, okay? Friends that are family, okay? Join my family today.